You're watching news on LN 24/7, bringing you news from Nigeria. I am Tahila Ogbole. Well, we'll begin with education, where the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board has warned candidates against committing registration infractions or violating the attestation signed during registration. The board's registrar, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, gave the warning as the 2026 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination registration, which commenced on January 26, enters its third week. Oloyede emphasized the seriousness of registration offences while speaking with media executives, as contained in JAMB's weekly bulletin released on its website on Monday. According to the registrar, registration infraction is a serious offence, noting that candidates may be barred from seating the UTME for up to 3 years. In addition, names of defaulters may be published by the board in the national dailies, as well as circulated to other public examination bodies. Now, in the 2026 appropriation bill, Nigeria has committed 838.67 billion naira to science, technology and innovation, signaling its strategic focus on economic diversification. The largest portion, 745.26 billion naira, is earmarked for capital expenditure to strengthen research infrastructure, tech development and innovation commercialization. Personnel costs, 85.08 billion naira, is to cover salaries for scientists and researchers with a lean overhead budget of 8.34 billion naira, prioritizing project execution. Despite public outcry, the House of Representatives has rescinded its earlier decision on real-time transmission of election results and adopted the Senate version. The House had approved a mandatory real-time transmission of election results through the IREF portal under Clause 60, subsection C of the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, but the Senate approved electronic transmission with a caveat. According to the Senate's position, results shall be transmitted electronically from each polling unit to the IREV after the prescribed Form EC8A has been signed and stamped by the presiding officer and party agents who are available at the polling unit. During consideration of the bill on Tuesday, Benjamin Kalu, the Deputy Speaker who presided over the session, put a close to a voice vote and a majority voted in favor. Meanwhile, the Senate has raised concerns over a key position in the newly passed Electoral Act amendment could inadvertently schedule the 2027 presidential and National Assembly elections during the Ramadan period. In a motion presented by Okpeyemi Bamidele, the Senate leader, the chamber acknowledged that the Electoral Act 2022 Repeal and Enactment Bill 2026 was duly considered and passed by the Senate and the House of Representatives. However, lawmakers admitted that a fresh review of the legislation exposed a potential complication tied to the election timetable. But the Senate noted that upon further critical review of the bill as passed, it has been observed that the 360 days notice requirement prescribed in Clause 28 may result in the scheduling of the 2027 presidential and National Assembly elections within the period of Ramadan. Meanwhile, Osun State Police Command has strengthened security at Oraigbomina, a boundary community between Osun and Kwara states, with the deployment of additional personnel to forestall the infiltration of bandits into the state. Commissioner of Police Ibrahim Gutan, while addressing the officers at the police headquarters in Oshogbo, charged them to exhibit professionalism and remain alert at all times. Drawn from different formations across Osun State, the officers and men are taking positions at strategic locations within Oraigbomina, determined to prevent criminal elements from gaining access into the state. Governor Abdurrahman Abdurrazak of Kwara has described the deadly attack in the state as a pure massacre, saying 75 people killed in the incident have been buried. Abdurrazak spoke on Wednesday night when he visited the area and the palace of the Emir of Kayama, Muazu Omar. In the quote, "It's different from what we used to see where subjects were kidnapped for ransom. This was just a pure massacre, and it's something we truly condemn and commiserate with you over," 75 have been buried. We are short of words, but we thank the security agencies for their work, the governor said. The attackers assaulted the Woro and Nuku communities of Kayama local government area of Kwara State. The Nigeria Air Force has recorded a significant operational milestone with the commissioning of the reactivated Super Puma helicopter at 205 Rotary Wing, Ikeja, Lagos on 7th February 2026. As the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Sunday Kelvin Aneke, reaffirmed the service's resolve to sustain decisive air power in the defense of the nation. Speaking at the ceremony, the CAS described the event as a powerful symbol of renewed capability and institutional focus. In a quote, "This occasion is not merely about the return of an aircraft to our fleet, but a demonstration of our unwavering commitment to enhance and sustain a highly motivated, professional and mission-ready force," he stated, noting that the restoration of legacy platforms remains central to strengthening national security. The CAS expressed profound appreciation to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for steadfast support toward air power development. Away from political matters in education, the National Universities Commission, NUC, and the Commonwealth of Learning Canada have begun steps to develop a national micro-credential framework to strengthen skills, employability, and lifelong learning. The Executive Secretary, National University Commission, Professor Abdullahi Rubadu, at a two-day stakeholders workshop in Abuja on Monday, said the reform must align education with labor market realities and technological change. Now in some business news, Minister of State for Petroleum Resources says Nigeria's gas reserves alone is not enough to drive economic growth without deliberate policies to boost local participation, skills and ownership. Ekperikpe Ekpo described gas as central to the country's energy transition, industrialization and economic resilience during the 9th Nigeria International Energy Summit. ECHO and Permanent Secretary Patience Onyekunle stressed the need to move beyond compliance-driven local content towards performance-driven participation, urging investment in energy, fabrication, LNG services, downstream industries like fertilizers and petrochemicals, and programs to strengthen local technical skills and supply chains. Our Minister of State for Petroleum, Senator Heineken Lekpobiri, highlighted that misapplication of the Local Content Act has contributed to the high project costs, urging collaboration between local and foreign companies to retain value domestically, attract investment and support long-term sector growth. Now moving to Kebbi State, the Governor Nasser Idris has officially announced that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will visit Kebbi State in the coming days to commission key projects executed by the present administration and to attend the Argungu International Fishing and Cultural Festival. The governor made this known at the Government House, Berlin, Kebbi, while receiving Abdullahi Aliyu Meish Ashana, Managing Director of Federal's Hairline, alongside hundreds of his supporters who defected from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressive Congress. The event attracted party stakeholders from Jagar local government area as well as top government officials. According to the governor, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is scheduled to arrive in Kebbi State next week to commission several completed projects and to grace the Argungu International Fishing and Cultural Festival. Well, a coalition of civil society organizations has called on the National Assembly's Harmonization Committee to adopt the House of Representatives' position on key electoral reforms, including mandatory real-time electronic transmission of results, approval of downloadable missing or unissued permanent voters' cards, and retention of existing electoral timelines. The groups warn that delays and inconsistencies in the ongoing amendment of the Electoral Act pose serious risk to the credibility of the 2027 general elections. The organization expressed concern over the Senate's earlier rejection of mandatory electronic transmission, opposition to downloadable PVCs, and proposal to compress electoral timelines, noting that conflicting interpretation of the Senate's position have deepened public confusion. Former Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi on Monday joined hundreds of protesters at the National Assembly in Abuja to protest the Senate amendment of the Electoral Act. The protest, tagged Occupy the National Assembly, was organized by the Obedient Movement and other pro-democracy groups over the removal of the phrase real time from the provision on the electronic transmission of election results. The Senate last week passed the Electoral Act 2022 Amendment Bill 2026 through third reading. Critics say the lit in real time weakens safeguards against manipulation ahead of the 2027 general elections. Well, moving on, Minister of Health, Professor Mohammed Ali Pate, has expressed concern over the inadequate release of the ministry's 2025 capital budget, revealing that only 36 million naira was disbursed out of the 218 billion naira appropriated for the year. Ali Pate disclosed this on Monday during the 2026 Budget Defense session with the House Committee on Healthcare Services, explaining that the shortfall prevented the ministry from implementing its 2025 capital projects. He said while the personnel budget was fully released and utilized, the capital component was largely inaccessible due to the bottom-up cash planning system of the Office of the Accountant General of the Federation and delays in Nigeria's counterpart funding. Meanwhile, as Valentine's Day celebrations swept across the country, a foundation in Ikorodu chose a different approach, focusing on faith, discipline, and positive values for young people. Virgin's Pride Foundation hosted selected secondary school pupils in the Ebute Igbobo community, encouraging them to look beyond romantic celebrations and embrace purposeful living. Oladele Deborah reports. Well, moving on, as Nigeria partners with allies in the fight against insecurity, a Nigerian defense spokesperson says about 100 U.S. military personnel have arrived in Nigeria as Washington scales up an operation to target Islamist insurgents. U.S. President Donald Trump has accused Nigeria of failing to protect Christians from Islamist militants in the Northwest. Nigeria denies discriminating against any religion, saying its security forces target armed groups that attack both Christians and Muslims. The U.S. carried out strikes targeting Islamic State-linked militants in December, and a small U.S. military team has been operating on ground to boost Nigeria's intelligence capabilities. In recent days, several planes carrying U.S. troops and equipment have headed to Nigeria's northern states, according to flight tracking data reviewed. In related news, resident doctors of Benue State University Teaching Hospital in Makurdi have officially suspended its strike action and has fully resumed work. A statement by the State University Teaching Hospital's CIO, or Head, Public Relations and Protocol, Zenzuko Moses, said clinical and related services have therefore returned to normal operations across the hospital. While the management of the hospital expressed deep appreciation to the Executive Governor of Benue State, Reverend Father Hyacinth Alia, the government negotiating team, the relevant stakeholders, and all well-meaning individuals whose timely interventions, dialogue, and commitment contributed immensely to the successful resolution of the issues. BISUF management also commended the Association of Resident Doctors for their understanding, cooperation, and renewed dedication to service. The hospital says it remains committed to delivering quality health care to the public and appreciates the patience, support, and goodwill shown by the general public throughout the period. Benue State Governor Dr. Hyacinth Alia has reiterated his administration's commitment to judicial independence and autonomy, declaring that the judiciary has regained its dignity under his leadership. At the swearing-in ceremony of Francis Yuwa as the judge of Benue State High Court, Governor Alia emphasized that Justice Yuwa's appointment is a testament to her merit and professionalism. He assured the judiciary of his administration's continued support in building a strong and credible justice system. The governor highlighted his government's achievement, including the appointment of more judges to high bench, improvement in conditions of service, and investment in court infrastructure. He warned the new judge to uphold the highest standards of judicial conduct and avoid undue influence or pressure. Well, after the break, news updates in business. Do stay with us. It's great to have you back. Now in business news, Corporate Affairs Commission says it now records about 10,000 business registration requests daily following the deployment of artificial intelligence across its service delivery platforms. The Registrar General of the CAC, Hussaini Megaji, disclosed this during an anniversary lecture marking the Commission's 35th anniversary on Monday in Abuja. Megaji said the adoption of AI had significantly enhanced the Commission's capacity to process the growing volume of business registrations and customer inquiry nationwide. According to him, business registration volumes have increased sharply due to tax reforms, policy promoting the formalization of informal businesses, and the growth of digital and social media-based enterprises. Also, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission has clarified that not all electricity meters currently being installed across the country are free, as it sought to address growing confusion over the federal government's metering programs and recent warnings against illegal charges by electricity distribution companies. The chairman of NERC, Musielu Oseni, made the clarification on Saturday during a radio chat, explaining that meters provided under government-funded initiatives are free at the point of installations, while other options still exist for customers who are unable or unwilling to wait. Oseni said meters supplied under the distribution sector recovery program known as DISREP are fully funded by federal government and must be provided to customers at no cost, but those who felt the deployment was taking too long could pay for the product under the MAP scheme. He stressed that electricity distribution companies are prohibited from demanding any payment from customers for meters deployed under the program, noting that the cost recovery mechanism does not involve upfront charges. Well, in more updates, Syria's state-owned petroleum company signed a memorandum of understanding with the U.S. and Qatar on Wednesday for the development of the country's first offshore oil and gas field. Syrian petroleum companies deal with U.S. energy giant Chevron, and Qatar's based Power International Holding was signed in Damascus in the presence of the U.S. Special Envoy to Syria, Tom Barak. Syria's state news media Sana said that the agreement aims to strengthen strategic partnerships in the energy sector and will cover cooperation in offshore exploration and the development of oil and gas resources in Syria's territorial waters, as well as broader efforts to supply investment and energy sector development. International energy companies bidding for oil and gas assets in Nigeria's 2025 licensing round will not need to establish local subsidiaries upfront, but successful foreign bidders must incorporate Nigerian's entity within 90 days of receiving offer letters, Business Day's findings have revealed. The clarification from the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission comes as Africa's largest oil producer seeks to attract foreign investment to 50 exploration blocks spanning mature and frontier basins while balancing demands for local economic participation. The Commission confirmed that foreign entities are not required to establish a Nigerian subsidiary to participate, but any successful foreign bidder must incorporate a Nigerian subsidiary within 90 days of receiving the offer letter as a condition precedent to the award of the assets, according to details released following pre-bid conferences held in January. Analysts say the arrangement represents a pragmatic approach to encouraging international participation while ensuring eventual Nigerian corporate presence. Elsewhere in Africa, national carrier Kenya Airways says a workers' strike disrupted flight and air traffic control operations at Kenya's main airport on Monday. Kenya Airways warned passengers of possible schedule adjustments, including delays, and advised them not to proceed to the airport without first confirming their flight status. Posting to social media, the carrier said they were currently experiencing air traffic control operational delays at Nairobi's Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, affecting certain departures and arrivals. Last week, the Kenya Aviation Workers Union gave notice of a strike starting on Monday over unresolved grievances, including an employment agreement that is stalled in negotiation. Kabul threatened a total shutdown of Kenya's airspace if its demands were not met by Monday. Anxious moments for Nigeria as Nigerians await decision from FIFA after the global football body deferred judgment on the petition filed by the Nigerian Football Federation against Congo DR. Well, that's in sports. Coming up. Welcome to sports. Well, Nigeria's sports sector has recorded significant gains under the leadership of the National Sports Commission, with Chairman Malam Shehu Diko and Director General Honorable Bukola Olopade overseeing what has been described as a strategic renaissance marked by global success, economic impact and institutional reform. Guided by the blueprint between 2024 and 2025, Team Nigeria secured 373 medals globally, including 197 gold, 119 silver, and 77 bronze medals across multi-sports games, continental championships, and international competitions. The achievements have reinforced Nigeria's growing competitiveness and ambition to position itself as Africa's leading sports powerhouse. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, while hailing the performances, said Nigeria's athletes has once again elevated the country's global image. Kaduna State Governor Uba Sani has pledged to remodel and upgrade the Ahmadu Bello Stadium into a FIFA standard sports facility capable of hosting international competitions. The stadium was constructed in 1965 and has become outdated, required a comprehensive overhaul to meet modern global standards for sports infrastructure. Governor Uba Sani made the pledge when the leadership of the International Institute of Sports paid him a courtesy visit at the Sir Kashim Ibrahim House in Kaduna. He disclosed that upon completion of the remodeling, the stadium will have a seating capacity of 32,000, doubling its current capacity. He further assured that the upgraded Ahmadu Bello Stadium will rank as the second largest in the country after the National Stadium in Abuja. Now, Governor Uba Sani described the Director General of the National Institute of Sport as a versatile leader, noting that the institute was largely moribund before his appointment, but is now witnessing renewed vitality under his leadership. Earlier, the Director General of the National Institute of Sports, Comrade Philip Shaibu, said the core mandate of the institute is to develop skilled manpower for Nigeria's sport ecosystem, including the training of coaches, sport administrators, and paramedics. Governor Uba Sani also emphasized the need for continuous capacity building to align Nigeria's sports sector with 21st century global standards. Nigerians are still awaiting a decision from FIFA after the global football body deferred judgment on a petition filed by the Nigerian Football Federation against DR Congo over alleged player ineligibility during the CAF player final for the 2026 World Cup qualifiers. The petition claimed that at least 6 DR Congo players who featured in the decisive fixture were ineligible due to recent changes in their nationality. Millions of Nigerians had anxiously waited a ruling on Monday, February 16, hoping for clarity on the Super Eagles qualification hopes. However, several reports indicate that FIFA has yet to issue any official pronouncement. Nigeria lost the playoff final 4-3 on penalties following a 1-1 draw in Rabat, Morocco. In the aftermath, the NFF formally requested that FIFA disqualify DR Congo for allegedly fielding players with dual nationalities in contravention of eligibility regulations. Well, and finally in sports, Nigeria's Super Eagles are set to take on Jordan in an international friendly in Amman during the match 23 and 31 FIFA window. The match will reportedly mark the first ever senior meeting between the two nations and forms part of Jordan's preparation for the debut World Cup appearance. Nicknamed the Chivalrous Ones, Jordan has been drawn into the challenging World Cup group alongside defending champions Argentina, Algeria and Austria. Reports also indicate that Iran is exploring a match fixture against the 3-time African champions, while a potential June clash with Portugal is under consideration. However, Nigeria's participation in the game will depend on FIFA's upcoming ruling on the country's eligibility protest against the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thank you for staying with us on News Now at this time. Stay with all LN247 platforms and website at www.ln247.news for more news programs. I am Tahila Ogbole. Thanks for watching.